Okay, after action, the third paragraph, the last sentence, she also indicated that there are 10 member exclusive events that block out time. I would like to put a comma and remove the rest of the sentence where it says for residents to use the course, because I think that's unclear. I would like to say block out time, comma, preventing residents from using the course. That's what I was saying. As it reads now, it sounds like it is exclusive for members. We're blocking off time for residents to use it, and that's not what's happening.
Okay, it's not the way that I interpreted it. I interpreted it the way that you're saying.
Yeah, I would feel better to say comma, preventing.
Oxford comma. I will make that change it.
All right.
That's all I have.
Second?
All right. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. All in favor of the minutes as edited, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The minutes are adopted. This leads us to the consent calendar. We have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Council Brown.
Yes, I'm recusing myself from item 18 and 19 as my husband is a police officer.
Thank you. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. This moves us to public hearing portion of our meeting. Madam City Clerk, item 24A.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title V Administrative Code, Chapter 30 Administrative Code, Boards and Commissions, specific to the Board of Ethics.
Thank you, Mrs. City Manager.
Honor members of the council, you see a report from the city solicitor. The recommendation here is first, there's three parts. First, the proposed amendment seeks to remove the city solicitor as an ex officio member of the Board of Ethics, serving as a non-voting member. The Rules Committee determined that such an appointment is unnecessary. Second, the proposed amendment seeks to change the language of section 30-3-29A4A of the Board of Ethics ordinance, which states that the following hearing, a potential recommendation to vote, quote, vote for innocence of any wrongdoing, unquote. At the recent meeting, the Board of Ethics raised the concern about the use of the word innocence and the implication the language implies criminal conduct and wrongdoing. Based on that concern, the consensus of the Rules Committee would to submit a recommended ordinance to change the language from vote of, quote, vote of innocence of any wrongdoing, unquote, to, quote, vote for a no finding of a violation, unquote. And thirdly, in addition, Mayor Champlin has proposed adding 2 alternates to the Board of Ethics. One of the alternates will be appointed by the mayor and the other appointed by the city manager. Both alternates will be subject to the approval by the city council.
Thank you. Any questions for the city manager? Council Fennessy.
I'm wondering if the chair of the Rules Committee would entertain a question.
Certainly.
So I was just curious what the history was behind the city solicitor being an ex officio member, if you know.
I'm not 100% sure. This is the only city solicitor that ever actually recognized that they happen to be sitting ex officio on both sides, but they really are there supposedly to support the Rules Committee and our recommendations for coming up with ordinances versus the Ethics Committee, which already has an ordinance by which to make their decisions based on.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the staff? All right. Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to testify on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Madam City Clerk, item 24B.
It's a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a lease agreement with Hampshire Aviation LLC concerning Development Zone 4 at the Concord Municipal Airport and to execute required documents with state and federal agencies regarding this.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
Members of the council, Hampshire Aviation LLC is a recently created LLC for the purpose of constructing and operating the proposed hangar at the airport. Hampshire, for short, is pursuing the project as a means to address a long wait list and space constraints at general aviation airports across the region. As staff understands that the project has already obtained commitments from aviators to occupy all 10 spaces within the proposed facility. For project overview, the project consists of 11,550 square feet, 10-unit aircraft T-hangar building, together with related parking and utility improvements to be constructed at Development Zone 4. Hampshire envisions that the hangar will house 10 privately owned small general aviation aircraft. The term is for 20 years with options of 4 5-year renewals for a maximum term of 40 years. The project has already paid development permitting fees. Rent associated with the lease will generate rental income for the airport. In addition to the rent, Hampshire will be required to pay property taxes for the new hangar and lease the premises. During the planning board design and review process, it became apparent that the location of DZ4, Development Zone 4, was not consistent with the location of the correlating access easements through the property located at 18 Chanel Drive. Staff has reached out to the state and federal agencies involved to determine that the slight shift in DZ4 by 21.61 feet to the north was acceptable and would not require any modification to the Conservation Management Agreement. To memorialize the understanding of the city and applicable state and federal agencies will execute required documents to reflect the change to the location of the development zone and references to the surveyed plans prepared by Hampshire and approved by the planning board. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the city manager? Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you. I just had a question with respect to the form of the lease. Do we have some sort of a form lease agreement that we anticipate using, or are we going to be negotiating the terms of that?
Ask Mr. Thompson to come forward.
Welcome, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. Mayor, members of the council, for the record, Tim Thompson, Assistant Director of Community Development. The lease framework is the same lease framework that we use with United Therapeutics for their hangar. We've just modified it to be specific to the Hampshire Aviation projects.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to testify on item 24B? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Madam City Clerk, item 24C.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $150,000 for the Beaver Meadow Parking Lot project to include the issuance of bonds and notes in the sum of $107,000 and accepting the sum of $43,000 in donations.
Mr. City Manager.
Members of the council, due to the scope of this project, it's determined that an alteration of terrain permit because of its amount of disturbance would be needed by the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. The requirement of this permit was to create a retention pond in the vicinity of the event tent area to manage drainage from the new parking lot. Working in conjunction with the city design team, H.L. Turner Group, Inc., and the construction manager, Milestone Construction, it has been a revised scope of work, including the retention pond. Revised pricing was solicited for the project. Based on the pricing received from earthwork and paving contractors, the alteration of terrain additional scope of work added $263,340 to the project. Revised plan estimates 102 spaces for overflow parking near the driving range and near the existing clubhouse facility for a revised parking lot space count of 146 spaces. So ended up value engineering the plan, also eliminates the alternate items listed in the attachment that you have. However, this request adds a funding for extending snowmaking, 300 feet for $43,000. This would be a donation from Ski the Beeve if approved by the City Council. All the other items could be added at a later time, including the cost of the alteration terrain permit. The revised price for 146 spaces in compliance with the permit requirement is $1,048,863. Glad to answer any question.
Any questions for the city manager? Councilor Horn.
We've removed an inch of asphalt, an inch of wearing course,
Right.
which I feel like it's at least a lightweight commercial parking lot, and that seems like I don't feel like that's enough. What is a reasonable time frame that we would be able to add the extra inch of asphalt and wearing course that the parking lot wouldn't have deteriorated and it wouldn't be useful?
Brian, would you like to? We've done such things in the past, usually particularly on roads also, and we can wait up to several years to do that to get extended life on roadway networks. But
we did discuss that with the engineers and the contractor, And we had the same concern, is this going to shorten the life of the pavement that's there? And they said that, we could go quite a number of years before we were to put the top coat on if we wanted to. And I think the top coat was, if I remember correctly, it was around $60,000 or $70,000 that we'd be able to do. So, hopefully when the overall project is done, we can take a look at that in 2 or 3 years and see if that makes sense at that time. But they said that it's not going to deteriorate the base pavement with all the work that they're going to do, and it will be sufficient to support that for really quite a number of years, is what they told us.
Councilor Brown?
Yes, you had, in this report, it states that as a result of the delay in pricing, and this results in a 42% increase in the project. What was the delay?
Well, the original pricing that we got, that this $900,000 was originally developed from, was the pricing back in 2023, when the original clubhouse project was brought forward to the City Council. So that was kind of the starting point of where this all came from. From that point, and then the contractors, I believe, that originally had done some of those pricings, changed around. So the engineers and the construction manager really had to go back and relook at that. When they repriced the project, the pricing came in significantly higher than what we expected. And that's when we worked with the city manager, myself, the engineers, and the construction manager to try to work on how can we get that price much closer to the $900,000 that the City Council had approved. We went through, I don't know how many revisions in order to try to get to that point, and I think we have a reasonable plan. Still provides a significant number of increased spaces, not as much as what we wanted, but we're going to end up with a good project. We'll eliminate, or fix the drainage issues that we've had there. Hopefully we'll have a great project that's going to really keep the pavement in good shape for many, many years to come.
Follow up?
How long is the permit good for?
I don't have that answer. I'm guessing a couple of years, but I'd have to find out and get back.
Follow up?
Yes. So the permit, is the permit based on, is the permit based and their recommendations for stormwater facilities, is that based on the 249 space parking lot and larger clubhouse that we were talking about in 2023?
It's really based on the amount of disturbance of the land around that is required in order to do the project. So it's not necessarily just 246 spaces versus 143. It's really the amount of land that's being disturbed. When you start taking a look at where the project is, they really have to go down quite a lot in order to create a whole new sub-base underneath that parking lot in order to create a much better drainage system. And that's really been the biggest problem in that parking lot, is that the drainage hasn't worked very well. In order to do that, they had to also create this retention pond on the other side of where the tent is in order to bring that drainage out on that other area. So there's disturbance, from there all the way down to the other side as well, too. So there's really a lot of disturbance of terrain, and that's really what it's about.
Follow up?
Yes. Isn't that disturbance, though, based on a 10,000 square foot building and a 249 space parking lot? Those stormwater facilities based on that much larger disturbance?
This is
Matt, go.
Mr. Walsh.
Mr. Wallace.
Welcome, Mr. Walsh.
Good evening. So just to clarify, the alteration of terrain permit from the state is good for 5 years. And the square foot requirements in this particular case are 100,000 square feet of disturbed area. So that is what's triggering the requirement to get the AOT permit and construction of the detention retention pond. So just for clarification.
Thank you. So the 10,000 square foot building, or 6,000 or 15,000, is really a minor portion of it.
I'm just,
Follow up?
yes, I'm just, if it's almost half the size, a 6,000 square foot building and significantly fewer parking spaces, was the permit based on a 10,000 square foot building or a smaller building? Like, a retention pond for a much larger area of impervious, or asphalt.
When the permit was requested, it was requested when we were looking at the 10,000 square foot building. If there's 4,000 square feet, if that triggered the difference, I highly doubt it, considering the amount of other disturbance that is occurring. The engineers determined that with their calculations, we needed to have an alteration of terrain permit. We've got that. We have the retention pond in the plan, and everything is the way that they need it to be.
Follow-up?
Yes. Won't we need an amendment to the permit because the parking lot is smaller and the building is smaller as well? Just, it's like if I was going to put on a third floor of my house, get the permit back and realize it's too expensive, so I'm just going to put a deck off one room. The permit wouldn't necessarily be, I wouldn't need, all of that what was required. So wouldn't it necessitate an amendment to that?
So I'm not intimately involved in the golf course clubhouse. But typically the way it works is, so the disturbed area is the parking lot, and then there's going to be the disturbance of the area of the clubhouse that will be torn down, and then the new clubhouse that will be built, the new clubhouse that will be constructed at the site. It sounds like it's the size of the parking lot that's driving the AOT permit more than anything else, because it's, the typical square footage of a parking lot in circulation lanes are about 300 square feet per parking space, round numbers. So I would suspect that there would not be a need to seek an amended AOT. If we hit 100,000 square feet or more, the AOT is there. And I suspect that the reduction in the size of the clubhouse probably is not making a material difference really in the amount of disturbed area that you're going to have with the project.
Mr. City Manager.
If I can remind folks, the clubhouse is not going to be built in the same footprint as the old clubhouse. Right. It's going to be adjacent to it, so you have that disturbance as part of that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Council Fennessy.
Thank you. Do we have the ability to, based on the current design that's going to be less than what we originally anticipated, do we have the ability to add those spaces in the future?
We do. That's kind of what we were talking about with them. There would be a couple of different areas where we could extend the spacing. One would be closer to where the clubhouse is now. We kind of eliminated some of those spaces, to make the parking lot work. And then we also had some additional spaces that we had anticipated for overflow parking that would kind of move towards the driving range area. Those would all be able to be done at a later time. So anything that we're doing now does not prevent us from making changes in the future. It's just that we had to scale down the project in order to meet the budget.
Follow-up.
I know one of the pieces of feedback we got when we had a meeting almost 2 years ago now from neighbors was concerns about lack of parking on site, people parking on Beaver Meadow Drive and some people out on Sewell Falls Drive. From an operational standpoint, do we think that this new plan will be able to support increased activity? And if we have events that are more popular, where we have more people on site, do we have some alternative arrangements for parking?
Kind of like what we have now, right? So we have about 96 spaces that are available for parking. And when we have those bigger events, certainly parking is very much at a premium. We've kind of blocked off the roads blocked off the side of the road along Beaver Meadow Drive so that we're not interfering with the driveways or the sides of people's properties there. So we have people parking all over the place. Really trying to get as much in as we possibly can without disrupting the neighbors. This is going to help significantly. This will add another 50+ spaces to the parking supply. Is it enough? We would like to have more, but that would require more cost. We think that it'll be sufficient for the majority of the events that we have. There will be, if there's an event that has kind of two events that cross over each other, those are going to be the events that will have, certainly more challenges with parking, because when those events occur, they tend to, come and go kind of at the same time. So those will be the more problematic ones. Fortunately, we don't have a lot of those, doubled up days on events. But it's certainly, more parking would have been better, but there was an additional cost to that. And, we thought that it made a lot more sense to come in with this plan, be able to improve the parking situation as far as the number of spaces, the overall parking condition of the parking lot, all of the drainage that is associated with it. It would make it much better for the customers this way. And, there is the ability to expand it, relatively easily in the future, if the council deems that that's appropriate at that time.
Councilor Brown?
Yes, is snowmaking part of this permit?
It's the running the lines underneath the parking lot as we're doing this. So they need to have lines for some water and electrical. I think it's 3-phase electrical in order to have the snowmaking equipment out on the driving range. So this is one piece of it. While you're doing the parking lot, you don't want to do it and then cut it up and then put the lines in afterwards. And that was a $43,000 cost. That's an option for the city council to do. That's why we included it here. It made a lot of sense, and the Ski the Beef has agreed that they would donate that $43,000.
Follow-up?
Yes, this is actually a question for the city manager about, this is coming out of the golf fund, correct?
Correct.
So this will be like $1.05 million added on for the golf fund. And this year's debt service for the golf fund is, I believe, $120,744. So this will then be close to that same amount in debt service the first year, I'm guessing. Plus, we just, with the, $250 for the clubhouse, I'm wondering what the management plan is for this debt service, because that's assuming that the golf fund can handle another $350,000 in debt service alone from this and the clubhouse. Is there a management, I'm just concerned that, we're not seeing how the golf fund is going to be able to do that, because if they could generate that.
It can generate that.
Is there a management plans for that? Because
Management plan for?
well, just, if they were able to generate like $350,000, that's pretty much what has been levied on taxpayers for each of these irrigation projects. So it seems like it was levied on taxpayers because the golf fund couldn't do that.
This amount, this is going to be bonded.
Right.
You're not paying for all in one
No,
year.
I know, but that's why I'm thinking the bonding of $1 million for the golf fund is probably going to be an additional $100,000. Is that correct? After, for
$1 million would be, over a 20-year bond, it'd be approximately $83,500 at 3.5%
So without
interest.
these dollars, it would be, how much would the bond be on the golf course, on the parking lot?
Without these dollars, this adds about $8,300 for an extra $100,000. So we factored all of this into the pro forma that's included in the budget that the city council just passed. So
So it's $8,300.
other than the $100,000,
It's minor dollars.
but the other $1 million in bonding, or the $900,000 in bonding, was included in the pro forma.
okay, I did not see that.
Follow-up?
Follow-up, yes. I was looking at the pro forma, and I see that so it is projected to be in debt, fiscal year 27 through fiscal year 31 by 200.
We worked through the pro formas for that 5-6 year time period in order to see how the fund is going to perform based on the projections that we have. So when we do that, we include all the operating expenses, we include all the debt service, we have the projected capital projects that we have in there and what the debt service would be on those capital projects. So we try to factor in all of those things. In addition to that, we also included the additional $250,000 that would be drawing down on the fund balance from the golf fund, so that we could try to factor all those things in there, so that when the manager was making the presentation to the city council, he had some, as accurate as we possibly could be at that moment on the information and the dollars that were available in order to do that. We also included all the other expenditures for the any new expenditures for the clubhouse and things like that. So we try to be, have as much information as possible in order to provide, so that we're able to, show, what we think is going to happen over those next few years. I can be pretty certain what's happening today. I'm relatively certain for next year. Each year as it goes out, obviously, we have to redo that each year, and that's why we do these pro formas, trying to show all these revenues and expenses each and every year that we go forward in order to do this.
Follow-up?
Yes. this is just my concern. I mean, this year is incredibly rainy, and I know a lot of these projections are, you know, like daily fees, seasons passes, cart rentals. A lot of that is going to be hit when the weather is really poor.
Yeah.
And even, you know, I know that in last year's pro forma, the expectation from the concessionaire was that it was going to be 52,000, and that has since dropped down now to like 38 or 32 or something. So I'm just expressing my concern that, you know, looking at the pro forma, including this, and these are rosy expectations that, you know, the days they're not going to be years like this, totally rainy, where, you know, you don't have that dependent. And I know that the simulators are not doing as well as they had been projected. So I'm very concerned that the pro forma projected for the golf fund is, you know, negative by
Is
over.
there a question?
I guess I would like to know what the debt service is for the clubhouse without the recreation reserve. What are we looking at? Because I'm afraid that that's all going to fall on taxpayers.
I'm not sure how that's pertinent to the
Yeah.
parking lot.
Well, it's
So let me,
money.
if I could, so let me give you an example. So your comments regarding the rosy projections and the rain. So this last weekend, we had a tournament up at the golf course, and it rained a lot. It was really rainy, and a lot of people probably wouldn't golf. So we would probably, typically you would close the course, and you probably wouldn't bring much in greens fees and whatnot. But we had a tournament there, and I think that tournament raised $11,000.
Yeah, we took in about $11,000, and that's, you know, one of the things where we have these outings and events. You know, people say, you know, why do we have these outings and events? Can't we do something different? But in this case, you know, and it happens with a number of other outings and events that most of them play, even when the weather is not all that great. You know, people have scheduled the time and they've made these arrangements. So that kind of saves the day on those days where it was a rainy day, because that event came in and it paid the dollars that they were anticipated to pay. Doesn't happen all the time, you know, but we've had, you know, this year has been one of those years where, you know, any events that, you know, we've had so far, and hopefully it doesn't go all summer long, but, you know, they for the most part, unless it's a complete washout, they come in and they play. So, you know, it's really having that balance of all those pieces, you know. Certainly over the last 4 or 5 years, 5 or 6 years, you know, it's worked out, you know, in a very positive way, you know, with the structure that's put in place.
All right, thank you, Mr. LeBrun.
Your Honor, I would just
Counselor?
I would just like to know what the debt service is for the clubhouse without the recreation reserve.
Counselor, I don't think that's really pertinent to the discussion about the parking lot.
Your Honor, with all due respect, we're looking at, this is additional money that is going to be expected for the golf fund to pay. We're looking already that we're projecting that they won't be able to pay. They are going to be in debt. I would like to know what that clubhouse debt is, because I feel like that is going to be on taxpayers. And we don't know that. We never got that number.
Does the city manager feel confident that it's going to be covered?
Yes.
Thank you. All right.
I'm sorry, I
I'll
didn't hear
open
that.
Yes, he feels confident that it will be covered.
What does that mean? The topic will be covered?
Council, that the revenues would be there, yes.
So discussion, I read through the report, and it appears as though that the parking lot's moving forward under a construction management, essentially a design build. And I'm wondering, is the clubhouse, when that gets to the point, is that going to be a design build, or is that going to be a design bid build?
City manager.
It's they're both construction manager projects, so we had the engineers. We contracted we have contracts with a couple of different engineering firms and a couple of different construction firms, where we have the construction manager form of construction. So we have the engineers who will, you know, create the designs, you know, and they get to a certain point, and then we'll get pricing from the construction managers, and then they have their bids that they work, their subs that they work with in order to do it. It's worked out as a relatively efficient way for the city to manage projects as we've gone forward. We've used it for quite a long time.
Thank you.
I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to testify? Mr. Schweiker.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, City Manager, and City Clerk. I'm Roy Schweiker, and I'm going to say the same thing I did when this thing came up last year. And that is, why are we building the parking lot first? I understand that we need a parking lot there. The one there is in terrible shape. Even if we don't build a clubhouse, the parking lot's probably in worse shape than the clubhouse. But I also have lived through any number of construction projects, and you are not going to be able to, rope that off and say the construction vehicles aren't going to drive over it and chew it up. Particularly, you're putting down not the whole pavement to begin with. So this is a very foolish time to build a parking lot. You should wait and do the parking lot after you do the clubhouse, since I understand you seem to be planning to build a clubhouse. So that's what, and maybe if you included it in the clubhouse project, you get better bids. I mean, we have a councilor who's concerned that the price has gone up 40%, but that's for the size of the parking lot going down 40%. I mean, that's an outrageous increase. Maybe we need to think, instead of doing that construction manager, we need to put it out to bids to a paving company or something, because you cannot go around having the price go up 40% when the amount of work goes down 40%. What's going to happen if the clubhouse has something like that? So we need to put a hold on this project, and we need to wait and have it done after the clubhouse is done. Maybe, the clubhouse, as far as I understand, does not have a detailed design. It's kind of just a minimal design was done to come up with an estimate. I think that, maybe if we had a better design for the clubhouse, the parking lot might not even look exactly like this. I mean, you don't design a parking lot first and then put a building next to it. You do it the other way around. So I think we need to delay the whole project. Not that it's going to be postponed forever, because like I say, this parking lot is in sad shape. It needs to be fixed, but it needs to be done after you build the clubhouse and not first. Because otherwise you're just going to chew it up and waste all the money you spent. And I think that the 40% increase in cost at the same time, the 40% decrease in amount of parking spaces, I mean, that's outrageous. Maybe we need to get some different firms involved in this, because either they're doing very bad in estimating or making a huge profit on building. I don't know which it is. And I was very concerned when this thing originally was spun off last year. I thought it was originally supposed to be part of the clubhouse project. And I've been very concerned about, let's put it in a simple manner, if this clubhouse project is such a good idea, why do we have to hide the figures and tell lies about it? And I thought that maybe the parking lot was spun off because it made the clubhouse look cheaper to have $1 million somewhere else. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it certainly makes the clubhouse cheaper if somebody else is paying for the parking lot. And I think it's wonderful that the Golf Fund is being charged for the parking lot. On the other hand, the parking lot is probably the thing over there that the most non-golfers are going to use. Now, why aren't we charging the irrigation to the golf course? Because that's something that only benefits golfers and not bird watchers, other people. So I think that if you people really believe this clubhouse is a good idea, I think you should tell the truth about it. You should make it so that all the golf stuff is charged to the golf fund, and then you transfer in from the general fund. Instead of, charging it to the general fund and then making it look like the golf course is showing a profit when it's not. Let's make this legitimate. Let's say, okay, the golf fund pays for all the golf stuff. If there's not enough money there, then the general fund has to have a transfer in, because it would make this thing a whole lot easier for people to understand. If you do it that way, it would make people happier that they actually trust what the city government is doing. It's kind of like the same thing with Rutland. I don't really know or care where the best place for the school is, but I got very upset about the fact that the school board was, essentially hiding things and not giving the right information. I feel the same way about the golf course. The golf course should have all the stuff charged to the golf course and then subsidize it if you want to. That's the fair way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schweiker. Any questions for Mr. Schweiker? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Madam City Clerk, item 24D.
It's a resolution appropriating the sum of $10,000 in the White Park project for the construction of a new playground and accepting the sum of $10,000 as a donation from the Lynch Family Trust.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
The Honourable Members of the Council, in 2024, the city approved $800,000 for the new White Park Playground, $400,000 LWCF grant, $350,000 from the city, and $50,000 in donations through the RFP process in the late fall of 2024. A firm was selected for final design and construction. In March of this year, the final quote for all the new inclusive playground was $60,000 over the approved funds. Starting in early April of this year, the department worked with the Friends of White Park, Mayor Byron Champlin, City Councilor Karen McNamara, and myself to create an enhanced fundraising campaign to raise an additional $60,000. This $10,000 donation is from the Lynch family of the new playground in White Park. I recommend you approve it.
Thank you, Mr. City. Any questions for the City Manager? Councilor Brown.
Yes, I'm really interested in this enhanced fundraising campaign. So all the money, all the money been raised for it? Has 60,000 been raised?
Councilor.
Over 62,000 has been raised.
Congratulations, that's exciting. I think that this is something to be celebrated, and I would hope that we see more enhanced fundraising campaigns.
Thank you. Councilor Kretovic.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. City Manager, with the enhanced fundraising, what we discussed at the budget hearing was the possibility for projects whenever there is a partnership with the City of Concord, that those fundraising efforts could be displayed at each one of our recreational facilities, our library, et cetera, so that we have general public members that participate in other areas of the city being able to give contributions, as was done with White Park. You could see the Monkey Around Playground when you walked into the community center. There was a nice graphic there that people could contribute right at the desk. They could scan a code to give a contribution, but we don't do that for all projects, and we'd like to do that going forward. Is that correct?
Who would? You would or I would?
Us.
I would. I think it makes a lot of sense, but I think it should be something that's approved by the City Council. Each project should be approved by the City Council, so that way you're kept aware of it, and the city and the community is kept aware of it. So, yes, so I think something like that would.
I'll have one shortly. Thank
well,
you.
Bring forward. I think the City Council should approve it, and then therefore then I could take it and make sure it's properly distributed.
Thank you.
Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if you could remind us what the total cost of the project was and what the total amount of fundraising was.
So,
if you know.
If I know, do you want the history on it, or just where we are right now?
Just where we're at right now.
Okay, so I got a great history on it. But so right now, it was $860,000, and of course, it just came in $60,000 over the $800,000. The original, I won't go back to the original plan, the revised plan was that the city would go out and get a grant for $400,000. In addition to that, we'd try to bring in $400,000 of outside dollars to do that. Looking at the way the current situation is with fundraising right now, the City Council then looked at it in the capital budget. I recommended a change in the capital budget so that the city would put in an additional $350,000 to match the $400,000, and the Friends of White Park would come up with $50,000 to do that. So that's how you got to the $800,000. And even that wasn't enough because we needed another 60 on top of that. And so Team McNamara and Champlin went out and essentially raised another 60 shook the bushes and came up with an extra, in a very, very short time, came up with an extra $62,000 to get us over the hump. If not, we could, you can kind of see a common theme here in a lot of these projects. If not, we could have gone without that $60,000 addition, but it would be the project would be so much better if we did it now and get it done. So we charged and came up with the money. So,
thank you.
Other questions for the City Manager? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to testify? All right, seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Madam City Clerk, item 24E.
It's a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into development agreement amendment number 6 with Capital Commons and to authorize the creation of a new master parking agreement, both documents associated with parking for Capitol Commons 11 South Main Street tenants at the Store Street Municipal Parking Garage.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
So, Your Honor, members of the council, you have a comprehensive report here, which I will try to do my best of what Tim has put together. So in accordance with the goals and objectives of the 2017 Strategic Parking Plan, the city sought to convert leased parking spaces within the municipal garages into permit spaces. Although said leases were instrumental in supporting the important economic development projects, these agreements have become antiquated, cumbersome to administer, and unnecessarily limit the public access to public parking. As such, these leases have become a hindrance to the city's economic development goals. The city has successfully eliminated leased parking in the State Street Municipal Parking Garage and is currently negotiating with the parking leaseholders in both the School Street and the Store Street garages to convert leased parking spaces. Transitioning from the lease to permits is advantageous to the city as well as to the lessees. By converting to a permit system, city can more effectively and efficiently utilize its parking supply and thus expand access to public parking as well as improve the ease of management on the municipal parking system. Additionally, by transitioning to permits, the city has a direct relationship with the parker, thus improving operational efficiencies. The city and the Capitol Commons LLC have come to an agreement to convert the Capitol Commons leased parking spaces at the Store Street parking garage to permits, as both parties have agreed that such a change is beneficial to both parties and to the developer's tenants. The attached resolution would effectuate this change for leased parking permit for the tenants of the Capitol Commons starting in fiscal year 2026. Generally, the benefits to both parties are the new master parking agreement will be easier to administer, reduction to quantity of exclusive use assigned spaces be greatly improved the city's ability to maintain the facility, and an improved ability to effectively enforce reserve parking. And as you can see, the report has the benefits to the Capitol Commons LLC and to the city with a calculation of savings there. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions for the city manager? I have one. So when I drive into the Store Street garage, for example, since that's the one we're talking about, and I see 2 or 3 empty spaces, but they all have a sign saying I can't park there because somebody else, they belong to somebody else, is that a lease space?
I'll have, yes, but I can, Tim can tell you what the specifics.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Yes, in the Store Street garage, currently, we do not have any permit system in place today. All the spaces that are reserved for individual parking spaces for companies are part of individual leases with Capitol Commons LLC, Bindery Redevelopment LLC, and Dupree Center LLC. Those are the long-term leases that currently exist in the garage. The agreement here with Capitol Commons will take their permits, will convert their leases, which there are over 100 currently, to 90 permit A's, which are non-reserved permit spaces where you have the permit hanging from your car like you have at the State Street garage, and you can park in any permit space, and 10 permit B's, which are reserved exclusive access spaces. So there'll be a total of 100 permit spaces, which will also expand slightly the availability of metered parking within the garage, and we'll be shifting the other leases to effectuate the change for management of the garage purposes.
So there'll be fewer spaces that I can't park in because they're designated.
There'll be more public spaces available under the garage, yes.
Thank you. Councilor Horn.
Does that, so if they only have the permits, would there be a possibility if it was a very, very busy day downtown that they couldn't, or wherever the garage is, that they wouldn't find a place to park?
In terms of the tenants that currently have the permits, or
Yeah, permit
if they,
parking.
based on the numbers we currently see in the Store Street garage, we generally have a plethora of available metered spaces within the lot and within the garage on a daily basis. I don't believe even if all the permit spaces are being used, we would have any particular concern with the metered parking being completely taken up under this agreement. We'll actually have an entire floor, the second floor of the garage would be nothing but metered spaces under the proposal that I'm currently trying to put together.
Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you. I know the goal is to do this not only in Store Street, but our other garages. Have we spoken with the businesses to see how they feel about that? I know, for example, School Street, there's a number of businesses that have dedicated spaces, I presume, as a inducement to their customers to show up. I know our firm has, two spaces right on the ground floor. So I'm just wondering what sort of outreach there's been with
The
respect to
outreach
that.
to date has been with the leaseholders themselves. So in the case of the School Street Garage, it's been with PRM and with Foxfire and Dupree. We are working, and I believe, hopefully, that Capitol Commons being the first domino to fall will hopefully spur the interest, particularly in School Street, where in addition to the lease fees that they pay, the leaseholders currently also have to pay a capital improvement surcharge whenever we do capital improvements within that garage, and the property taxes for those spaces as well. By converting the permits, not only do those two things go away, but it also takes out that leaseholder as the middleman, and the companies will basically deal directly with the city's parking division for their permits.
Terrific. Thank you. I would say Capitol Commons is leading the way. Right. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll now open any other questions? I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to testify on this? Seeing none, declare the public hearing closed. This moves us to the public hearing action portion of our meeting. Madam City Clerk, item 25.
It's an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title V Administrative Code, Chapter 30, Boards and Commissions, relative to the Board of Ethics.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Madam City Clerk, item 26.
It is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a lease agreement with Hampshire Aviation LLC concerning Development Zone 4 at the Concord Municipal Airport, and to execute required documents with state and federal agencies regarding revisions to the location of Development Zone 4.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilor Fennessy.
I'm just going to say I support this, but I will say, and I know this is not the first time I've said it, I like to see the actual lease agreement before I approve it, but that might just be because I'm a lawyer.
That's the problem.
Any other discussion? Councilor Brown.
Yes, so are you not going to vote on this because we don't have the lease agreement?
No.
So you're saying you're not voting it because you like to see the lease agreement?
No, what I'm saying is that I prefer to see a lease agreement before we're asked to approve it.
Right. So what is your position on this? What do you?
Follow up?
Follow up, yes. So I'm just trying to understand, are you saying that you don't think, or are you going to vote for this or not?
I think I said I approve it, but
Okay, I didn't hear that first part.
yeah, that was the first thing I said.
Okay, I didn't hear that part.
All right. Wait and see. Any other discussion? Could be a surprise. All right. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Madam City Clerk, item 27.
It is a resolution appropriating the sum of $150,000 for the Beaver Meadow parking lot project to include the issuance of bonds and notes in the sum of $107,000 and accepting the sum of $43,000 in donations for this purpose.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilor Moore.
I'm not sure of the correct operation. I just wanted to make a motion or move to have this done via donations. I'm not sure of the operation to
Councilor,
do
could
that.
you move your microphone a little closer to you, please? Thank you. I'm sorry, you're asking?
I would like to have this money raised via donations. I'm not sure of the correct operation for me to say that or move to do that.
Second.
So,
Motion on the table.
yeah, there's a motion on the
Yes, I
on the
understand. that.
table. So are you asking, I think Councilor Kretovic made the motion.
That is correct. Are you looking for an amendment to the motion? Sure.
Are you amenable to making an amendment to the motion?
I am not.
All right. So we have a motion on the table. Motion on the table is to approve the resolution, as presented.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Sure.
So if Councilor Horn is making a motion, so we would need to, and she does not want that amendment, but doesn't an amendment, if we second that amendment, wouldn't it then go before a vote, before we vote on this?
No, because we have a motion on the table that takes precedence, Councilor.
But
That's been
doesn't an
seconded.
amendment take,
There's a motion on the table that has been moved and seconded. We need to vote on that one. If Councilor Horn wishes to make a subsequent motion, then she is free to,
And the subsequent motion would be to.
whatever she says that she wants it to be.
What is the
That's
role,
what I was asking.
Yeah.
so what is the role of amendment then in this process? When would an amendment be in order?
Well, right now, the amendment would be in order after we adopt the motion that's been presented. If a motion, if Council Horn wanted to modify the action that we took, she could make a motion to modify it.
That doesn't sound. That's how the bylaw works. And then.
I don't, that's not my understanding. My understanding is that there's a motion on the table, then it's open for discussion, and somebody can make an amendment if it's seconded, and to amend the motion on the table. And then we either accept or reject the amendment.
Turn to my parliamentarian.
I mean, I could be wrong.
No,
but
that's how I interpret it
but-
as well.
Yeah, I'll
that's
turn
my
to
understanding.
parliamentarian. Madam City Clerk?
There is a motion on the table that should be voted on first, is my understanding of how the
Okay,
council processes work.
okay, thank you,
Madam City
thank you.
Clerk. All right. There's a motion on the table. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Kurtz?
Yes, thank you. Is it appropriate to ask the city manager a question generated by public testimony, or has the opportunity for asking the city manager questions on this passed?
I think you can ask him a question.
Okay, thank you. In response to the testimony about the timing of this relative to the other planned building at Beaver Meadow, could you just speak?
Sure. Maybe Brian could come up so we could. So when we looked at the garage, being that they're both going to be close to each other in timing, when we did this, we made sure that all the parties were talking together about doing this, and we anticipated that we wanted to make sure that any improvements done for the parking lot were not damaged by the construction for the building, and that's all been taken care of.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, that's just, why wouldn't you? So,
Thank you for confirming.
Councilor Kredic?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to speak to my motion, especially for the $43,000 in donations for Ski the Beeve. When we took up separating the parking lot from the building, and subsequent to that this past winter, when they did the display of what the snowmaking was going to be, and what that opportunity looked like, we heard during the budget cycle how passionate Ski the Beeve was in regards to having the ability to ski on snow. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I think that it's important to not put a further burden on them or other organizations that have already committed $250,000 to be raised over 10 years, at a minimum, $250,000 over 10 years, plus $43,000 from Ski the Beeve for the snowmaking options at this point in time, a snow groomer, et cetera. This is a long-term investment in our community on this side of the city, and I think that we should be looking at this as a strong partnership with Ski the Beeve and an opportunity that is here in front of us. We see that every time we delay these projects, the prices escalate, and I would ask my fellow colleagues to support this report and resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Brown?
Yes, I just want to point out that Ski the Beeve, you know, if they've raised 43,000 and this is, oh no, maybe my math is off. They've raised a significant amount of money, and really they would only be using this a couple of months out of the year. We just heard about the Friends of White Park and then the enhanced fundraising, and there is no additional fundraising. There are no dollars provided by the Friends of the Beeve in advance. The Friends of White Park have been fundraising for, I would say, a decade at least on this playground. So I am not in favor of moving forward with this motion. I feel like there absolutely should be fundraising. It sends a bad message to all other groups that are fundraising frantically, are holding multiple events, and have been doing this for many years. If they had been told, hey, you got 10 years, don't worry. This is, so I don't support the motion for that reason.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll be supporting this motion, and, whether you think the clubhouse is a good idea or a bad idea, it's been voted on, it's going forward, and I think it's a pretty poor idea to have a dirt parking lot for a $6 million investment in a clubhouse. So why wouldn't you make this commitment? So I will very much be voting in favor.
Thank you. We're ready for the question. Councilor Schlosser.
So I'd like
I think we had an incorrect ruling on the amendment. Section 12, may I speak to the rules?
Sure you
Is
may.
that appropriate?
Sure.
So Section 12 of the council rules says when a question is under debate, and I believe this motion is under debate, when a question is under debate, the mayor shall receive no motion other than 1, an adjourn, 2, to lay on the table until date certain to table it, 3, to amend, or 4, to lay on the table indefinitely. A motion to adjourn, et cetera, et cetera. So there is appropriate, when a question is under debate, for the motion, the mayor to receive a motion to amend the motion, I believe, by Section 12 of our rules. So I just wanted to make sure that we
Thank
gave
you, Counselor.
your consideration.
I stand corrected then.
Thank you.
I apologize. Counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. If we're taking up the amendment, I'm going to vote against the amended motion.
Let's
I haven't
wait
spoken to
until
it.
we have a motion. So we have a motion to, and Counselor Horn, would you restate your motion, please?
To raise the $107,000 additional via fundraising.
Okay, thank you. And Counselor Brown seconded. Okay, is there discussion on the motion? Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, please.
All right.
I see parallels in this project to the White Park Playground that was $800,000 and did come back at $860,000. So it was raised just like the parking lot was. We then had a call to action to fundraise that additional $60,000 in 1 month. The community not only met but exceeded that, which was very exciting. We now have the $900,000 parking lot that increased by 70%, and we need to reduce the scope for much lower quality product. In that, we still need $107,000 additional dollars. I propose that we are equitable in our asks from the community and ask that these dollars are fundraised. We, the city, can promote the fundraising, just like Councilor Kretovic spoke of earlier, through social media, at the community centers, etc. If individuals and businesses want an accessible playground to raise $60,000 in a month, I'm very confident that the golf course can do similar. As a matter of fact, we had a business person from the community state that if the council committed to the new clubhouse, which we now have, that the business community would step up with a public-private partnership. And I think it's a perfect opportunity to call on these businesses. Ski the Beef has reaffirmed their commitment to fundraise their $43,000 to cover the winter portion, the snowmaking portion, and I appreciate their willingness to do so. And I will want to also say that if it's a golf bond and that won't affect taxpayers, that I feel is disingenuous at best, because if there's no additional money, that if there is not the additional money that the golf fund would have to pay on its debts, that would be additional funds to go back to the general fund to pay for current bonds on irrigation, other improvements that the taxpayers are currently paying, and therefore relieving them even a small amount. We've already said that after 2 years, we only expect the taxpayers to pay a few dollars for the clubhouse. If we're going to add this increased bonds, a few more dollars will be added to that debt before paying back the general fund.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Brown?
Yes, I'm seconding this. Ski the Beef would be paying 29% of this additional $150,000 for a group that is skiing, and we know that was only a month, and yes, they would be making snow, but for them to have raised this and it's already available, or it would be available by August, I feel like it is not fair to them to not ask for fundraising from the golf course. And just as Councilor Horn mentioned, we've been told after a couple of years it's only going to be a few dollars on an average home, but we don't know what the average home is. I have people who live in Ward 5 in manufactured homes. I have people who live in close to $1 million homes. So I'm not sure what the average is, which is why I like to know what the debt service is so that I can help my constituents with finding ways to alleviate that burden. So that is the ask. I like to work with the specific numbers. I don't feel comfortable just telling people, oh, it's only a few dollars, and I know nothing more about that. I'm not comfortable with that.
All right, Counselor Fennessy.
Thank you. I think if we approve this amendment, then we should start passing the hat to pay police salaries. We should go around when we pay someone's street, we should ask them to contribute a little bit more because they got extra paving that year, and someone in Ward 2 didn't get it. To me, the parking lot is just basic city infrastructure that we've allowed to deteriorate over time, and I don't see a group really. I thank Friends of the Ski the Beeve for contributing for the additional amounts to do the water line out there and the electrical, so we can do snowmaking, which I think is a very positive. But I'm not a fundraiser in my past like Mayor Champlin, but I don't know how many people are excited about paying for a parking lot. That to me is just basic infrastructure, which we've already approved, and it's going to cost us some additional money, and it's going to come out of the golf fund. So it seems like a no-brainer to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Krivik.
Thank you, Your Honor. There's a big assumption here that Ski the Beeve already has this money, and clearly in their testimony that they sent to us, it says, our board and volunteers will launch a fundraising campaign this summer to raise the necessary funds to cover these costs. They haven't started. They're just getting ready to start. And I think that they've made a commitment for the $43,000 based upon what is sitting in front of us tonight. And I think that that's what we should be voting on. Thank you.
Councilor McNamara.
I'm not sure that comparing the $62,000 that was raised for Monkey Around Playground is an equal comparison, because Monkey Around Playground would have happened with or without the $60,000. That was already set and done. There were some items that we wanted to complement, so I just wanted to make that clear that the Monkey Around Playground was already happening, and the $60,000 gave some enhancements. So I just want to make that clarification.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Brown.
Yes. So Councilor Fennessy is correct. We have let the parking lot go. We had a facility assessment in 2004 that rated it as medium high. It was, they projected it would cost $62,000 back in 2004. That was the Du Bois and King facility assessment. Now, the Golf Course Advisory Committee decided to focus on irrigation instead of parking. That the parking lot was identified. It was set to go, I think it was in 2019, and then it kept getting pushed out by 4 years while we spent the next 7 to do irrigation. So, you can pass a hat around, but the golfers have been getting a significant discount, especially non-resident golfers. It is about $1,000 less for the adult membership at Beaver Meadow than it is at Pembroke Pines. So this is not unreasonable. And we heard, I think it was Chris Emons who said at the Boys and Girls Club, they raised, was it $50,000? So they could absolutely fundraise, especially if they knew it was a precursor to a new clubhouse.
Any other questions? Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you. I would say that the advisory committee made a very wise choice in 2019 to focus on improving operations, and the council at the time making the investment in irrigation. As a result of that, the golf fund has built up sufficient funds that it can cover this bond moving forward. If they had spent that money on a parking lot, I don't think you see increase in play, increase in fees, and an increase in the amounts in the golf fund.
Councilor Keach.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to move the question. We've got 2 amendments on the table. First, Councilor Horn's amendment to the amendment, and I would like to move that question.
This is an amendment to the motion. But
I'm
yes.
sorry, just an amendment.
All right. So the question is moved. You ready for the question? All those in favor
Your Honor,
of the amendment?
Parliamentary, point of order, we need to vote to move the question. It has to be a 2/3 vote. I looked it up.
Cool. All right. All those in favor of moving the question signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It passes with the necessary 2/3. All right. All those ready for the question?
Oh, you didn't vote.
Yeah, I did.
All those in favor signify by saying, I'm sorry, if you are in favor of the motion to raise the $105,000 through fundraising,
107.
I'm sorry, $107,000 through fundraising, you would vote yes. If you oppose that motion, you would vote no. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion?
Roll call, Your Honor.
I've had a request for a roll call. Madam City Clerk?
Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Champlin?
No.
Councilor Fennessy?
No.
Councilor Foot?
No.
Councilor Grady Sexton?
No.
Councilor Horn?
Yes.
Councilor Keach?
No.
Councilor Krivik?
No.
Councilor Kurtz?
No.
Counselor McNamara?
No.
Counselor Schlosser?
No.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
And Counselor Todd?
No.
Motion fails.
Motion fails. We now have on, before us, the original motion, which was to approve the appropriation. Are we ready for the question? All right. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
Ayes have it by the required two-thirds majority. Madam City Clerk, item 28.
It is a resolution appropriating a sum of $10,000 in the White Park project for the construction of a new playground and accepting the sum of $10,000 as a donation from the Lynch Family Trust for this purpose.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented?
Counselor Schultz.
Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor Schultz, I'm sorry.
I know you mentioned the Lynch family, but I want to make it clear it's former Governor Lynch and his wife Susan, Dr. Susan Lynch. I just think that's really awesome because I don't even think they live in Concord, and it's wonderful that they see it the way I do, which is it's going to be a regional draw, and it's really good for the kids, and I think it's exciting. So thank you to the Lynch family.
Amen. Thank you, Counselor. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I didn't
That's
see
all
your
right, you
hand
didn't
up.
see my hand.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Madam City Clerk, item, I'm sorry, my glasses are not on, item 29.
It is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into Development Agreement Amendment Number 6 with Capital Commons LLC and to authorize the creation of a new master parking agreement, both documents associated with parking for Capital Commons, 11 South Main Street tenants at the Stores Street Municipal Parking Garage.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. This moves us to reports. Mr. Thompson, is this you?
Mr. Walsh.
Mr. Walsh, I'm sorry.
Jeff's excited.
Yes, Madam City Clerk?
It is a report from the city planner regarding the annual review of the public capital facilities impact fee ordinance. This is not the city planner.
This is not the city planner, that's correct. So for the record, I'm the Deputy City Manager for Development. The city planner is away today, so I am pinch hitting for her. There's a report that is written in your packet. I'm going to do a brief summary here, and then we can go to questions. So impact fees, big picture, are permitted by New Hampshire State Law RSA 674:21, which is New Hampshire's innovative land use statute. Concord adopted its impact fee ordinance way back in 2001. The ordinance was based on the recommendations of a feasibility study that was commissioned by the city and done by third-party consultants and attorneys. The impact fee ordinance, the city's impact fee ordinance, is located in Chapter 29.2 of the city's Code of Ordinances. There's a copy of that ordinance in your packet. The ordinance requires annual review by the planning board and periodic amendments by the city council whenever the council believes it's prudent to make modifications. Per state law, impact fees are assessed to offset the cost of capital improvement projects and expenditures that expand the capacity of municipal infrastructure to support the demands of development. Impact fees, importantly, cannot be used to rebuild existing infrastructure unless the rebuild results in expanded capacity. And then you usually use the impact fee to pay for the marginal cost of the increased capacity that's created as part of the rebuild. Impact fees also cannot be used to finance operating costs, pay for capital projects that do not create a capacity to serve new growth. In Concord, and generally speaking, impact fees are issued at the time of certificate of occupancy. Per the state statute, we have to allocate them to a project within a 6-year period after they are collected. That is to have parity with when capital improvement programs, which in state law are established to be a minimum of 6 years, so that's where the 6 years comes from in RSA 674:5. But Concord, because we are overachievers, goes beyond that with a 10-year planning horizon in our capital improvement program. More details here. So impact fees can be either used as cash to pay for the actual capital improvement improvement or portion thereof, or you can use it to pay for debt service on a previously built improvement or expenditure that you've made, which serves new growth. So if you built a facility, it has a 20-year bond on it, you're collecting impact fees 10 years after it's built, and it's serving capacity for that new development, you can use the impact fee to pay for that improvement 10 years later or the debt service for it. The city currently charges impact fees for the following areas: transportation impact fees. We assess that to residential development, new residential development, except for the conversion of existing buildings in the Central Business Performance Zoning District, downtown and in Pennacook. There's an automatic waiver of transportation impact fees for commercial and industrial development, and that was put in place in 2017 by the City Council. We assess impact fees for the development of recreational facilities that serve new development, but we only assess that to residential projects. We previously assessed impact fees for schools, both Merrimack Valley and the Concord School District. However, that practice was also terminated in 2017 because the debt service for projects that both districts had previously done was fully paid for, and recent projects by at least the Concord School District, I do not believe has actually expanded capacity for educational services in the city. As you note in the impact fee in the report, the fees that we currently charge have not been changed since 2014, so it's been 11 years. I don't know how the copier did this to me. To keep pace with inflation, you'll see in the report, keep pace with inflation. If you want to adjust to go back to when the last time the fees were adjusted, which was 2014, to keep pace, the transportation impact fee would need to be adjusted by 26.11%, and the recreational fees by 33.72%. These are based on the indexes that are used by the city, which are referenced in the ordinance. You can look at the tables on page 4 of the report for the existing fees and what those adjustments would be if we adjusted them to keep up with inflation over the last decade. The Planning Board discussed this at their April and May meetings recently. As part of the process, the board also asked to look at impact fees for other communities. They looked at Dover, Manchester, and Nashua. They were also interested in Keene, but my understanding is that Keene does not charge impact fees. The information for those 3 communities, Dover, Manchester, and Nashua, are provided in your packet. At the end of their deliberations, the Planning Board made the following recommendations for the City Council's consideration. They had 2 options relative to fee increases. Option 1 was to adjust transportation impact fees by 1.9% and transportation fees by 4.97% for year-over-year inflation. That would really just account for bringing it up from last year to this year. It's not going back to 2014. They also recommended reinstating the transportation impact fee for non-residential development, so that'd be for commercial and industrial development. The second option that the board suggested that the council consider is to increase transportation impact fees by the 26.11%, and recreational impact fees by 33.72%, which are to bring us up current from where full adjustment for inflation over the last decade. However, the board suggested that maybe that get phased in incrementally over a 3-year period, and they also again made the recommendation to reinstate the transportation impact fees for commercial and industrial development. And then lastly, the Planning Board also suggested that the council consider engaging a consultant to review the impact fee ordinances and including all possible categories that the city could charge for, not just transportation, recreation, and schools, but things like water, sewer, police, fire, things of that nature. I'm not sure if the board was aware of this at the time of their discussions, but there is a capital improvement project. It's number 600 in the budget that you just adopted last Thursday, which calls for $200,000 in fiscal year 2030, so 4 years from now, to actually undertake that effort. And the thought was to undertake that effort after we complete the upcoming master plan process. If the City Council desires either recommendation by the Planning Board or whatever you may come up with on your own, we would need some direction from the City Council as to preparation of ordinance amendments for a future public hearing, which the staff would be happy to work on if that's the council's will. So here we're here to give you this information and seek guidance from you tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions that I may.
Questions from Mr. Walsh? Councilor Brown.
Yes, so if there are units that, I'm going to use the Fisherville Road, those townhouses that are developed, and I'm assuming we don't have the certificate of occupancy for those yet. So if we are building a skate park and it is considered a citywide skate park, but it is not in District 1, could we apply those dollars, the recreational impact fees, to a citywide recreational area?
So we typically allocate, transportation and recreation impact fees are allocated on a district basis. You are correct that the impact fee ordinance does contain a provision whereby recreational impact fees can be taken from all 4 districts and allocated to a citywide facility. Historically, the 2 citywide facilities that the city has typically designated are Memorial Field and the citywide community center that is located on Canterbury Road. Those have been the 2. If the council wanted to designate the skate park as a citywide facility, you could provide us with that guidance, and we would take that into account as we do future budgets or capital improvement plans for the facility.
Follow-up?
Can we split the impact fees? So like say there's 150, I believe, townhouses. Could we use the impact fees from like 50 of them for one project, let's say Memorial Field, and then 50, for a different project? Can we split that up, or do they all have to be spent in the same area?
So you'd want to be careful about taking too many impact fees and allocating them to one facility, because it might cause us to forego doing neighborhood recreational facility improvements to serve the hypothetical example of the new condominiums that are being built on Fisherville Road. But short answer is that the council, once the fee is received by the city, we can spend it on any project that we want within the district that it came from, or if it's designated as a citywide facility, you can use the money to use it on the citywide facility. So you can allocate the funds any way you want once it's received by the city.
Council Fennessy.
Thank you. I'm looking at the tables in the report on
Yes.
page 4.
Yep.
And just trying to make sure I understand. So the gray box, that would be, I guess, the recommendation if we were to adjust it for inflation.
To account for the entire last 11 years, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Follow-up. So if I'm looking at this, so multi-unit apartment, other than townhouses or duplexes, under table 1, it shows $888.52 per dwelling unit.
That's correct.
Okay. Follow-up.
Follow-up?
So if it's, let's call it a 50-unit building, that would be 888.52 times 50.
Correct.
Okay. Follow-up.
Follow-up?
And then, if I understand this correctly, would we then be adding that fee to the transportation and facilities impact fee as well?
Correct.
Okay.
Follow-up?
And so would that be, if I'm looking at this correctly, the multi-unit dwelling unit would be $1,828.44 per unit.
That's correct.
So same math, 1,828.44 times 50 plus whatever the recreational fee was.
That is correct.
Okay. What would be the impact on the cost of those housing units if we institute these fees? Would you expect that would be passed on to either purchasers or the tenants of those?
Correct, yeah. So that's exactly what a developer would do. The developer would bake that into the cost of their development project. It's part of their expense, and it would be passed on to the buyer of those units, which my recollection is I believe they're on the market for somewhere in the realms of $400,000 per unit. Yep.
Thank you.
Councilor Brown?
Yes. Oh, did you have one? Oh. So did we, were there recreational impact fees on the new units at the church that the ribbon cutting we just had?
Yes, there will be impact fees on those units. There will be.
Follow-up?
May I ask, how much are we collecting in recreation impact fees from that project?
Well, it would be, right now, it would be multi-unit apartment other than townhomes or duplexes, and it would be $665 a month per unit, and I believe there's 30 units in that particular development, so that's what the math would be.
Times 30.
Yep.
Awesome.
Any other questions for Mr. Walsh? Thank you. Councilor Foot.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. It's very obvious to me that the staff, when they developed this report, was very thoughtful and understanding of what needs to happen, so we're at par with other communities in the state of New Hampshire. So we have several other communities in the state of New Hampshire that have these fees in place, and I'm not seeing any less development in some of these communities. So have you seen that in other communities where they instituted these impact fees, that we are now, the growth has stopped? Say, I'll give you some examples. Salem, Bedford, Hooksett, Laconia, Rochester, Dover, Lebanon. Are those communities, is development stopped in those communities based on your understanding?
Anecdotally, without studying them, no, my understanding is that development has continued in those communities.
Thank you.
Hello? No? Okay. Any further questions from Mr. Walsh? Mr. Walsh, so if I understand, you're asking us for direction as to whether to follow the planning board's suggestions, I guess, under recommendation number 1 of option 1 or option 2?
That's correct. If we're looking for guidance from the council, if either one of those options is attractive to you, if it's not, then let us know that. But we're just, if you want us to take some action with regards to preparing an amendment to an ordinance, we just would like to know we just need direction from the council so we can do that and come back to you.
Right. And on recommendation number 2, we would, the recommendation there would be to accelerate the plan in the CIP to hire a consultant. Is that correct?
Exactly, Your Honor.
Impact fee ordinance?
No. So the first option is really just adjusting for inflation by 1 year, the fees, which you can see what they would be there.
Right.
And then the second option is to adjust for the full 11 years of inflation, but to do it in an incremental way, so it's phased in over a 3-year period.
What he's
I'm asking about.
Should you do one, can you, sorry, could I?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Do recommendation 1 and then also do option 2.
Recommendation 2.
And the second, apologies.
Skip down,
apologies.
I'm sorry, not option 2, skip down.
Yes, you could. The only thing I would say is that we would need to bring forth an appropriation to the city council in order to proceed with doing a comprehensive update to the impact fee ordinance. It's likely something we'd have to bring a consultant in to help us with.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want
Council
a
Foot.
motion to accept the report?
Council Foot.
Again, I just want to compliment you on the work done, and from me reading this and consulting with other folks, it's very obvious that the work that was done in 2014 is the heavy lift. The mechanisms and the outline of this is excellent, and I know we like to rely on consultants, but I think we did in 2014, and I think Mr. Walsh is considered, an expert in impact fees. And there's some other folks in, various communities that would, I'm sure, volunteer their time. I know I would, because the framework's here. And I'm not sure we need to go through another consultant process until we get to the $200,000 exercise in 2030. So I appreciate the offer of a consultant, but I also think that there's some of us in this room and there's other people that could bring this forth in a much more expeditious manner at no cost or reduced cost.
Councilor Fennessy.
Thank you. There's 2 consistent things that I've heard from people in the city. Number 1, housing costs are too high. Number 2, we need to bring in additional commercial property owners so we can shift the balance from residential back to commercial. Increasing impact fees are going to have the opposite effect of those 2 things. You're going to make housing more expensive, and you're going to discourage investment by commercial properties in the city. I don't think it's a good idea to go down this road at all, and I will not support any action to do so.
Thank you. Councilor Brown?
I just want to thank Councilor Foote, because I was going to ask you what Bedford is doing, and if Bedford used a consultant. I think we do need recreational impact fees, because we're seeing our residents being hit with, improving our transportation infrastructure and our recreational infrastructure. And, right now, it's the residents who are bearing the cost, not commercial properties. So I think, and the ribbon cutting that many of us attended was fabulous. That generated impact fees for us. So I don't think it's going to keep people away. As Councilor Foote says all the time, this is the capital city. That people want to build here, and I think we have to recognize that we are a desirable community, and people should have to pay these recreational impact fees. And I like the suggestion of not using a consultant, relying on the talent that we have here.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor
Also,
Foote?
I think it's important to understand some of the testimony. I watched the planning board meeting of May 21st, and the former city planner testified that the cost of lumber and interest rates have a far greater influence than an impact fee. So a past city of Concord planner, that's what he testified to in earlier, within the last month. So impact fees, we call them impact fees, but really what they are, it's a fair share contribution from the persons or developer who wants to come to this city. So every time a developer or someone wants to build to come to this city, don't we want them to pay their fair share to be part of this community? That's really what it comes down to. And so every time we waive or negate the impact fee, the burden's being shifted on the existing taxpayer. And that is really what I'm trying to alleviate as part of this. It's not going to, if we glean 2 or 5% from impact fees to reduce some of these capital projects, it's a win. Every time we don't, as I'll say it again, we're shifting the burden from the developer onto the existing property taxpayers. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to accept the report? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Schlosser?
But we should have a motion on the table to discuss it. Would that be in order first?
I'm sorry, I'm not.
Do you want a motion to accept the report and then discuss it, or do you want to discuss it first?
No, I'd like a motion to accept the report, and then we'll discuss.
I'll have a motion to accept the report.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All right, discussion on the report. Thank you, Councilor. Go ahead.
So what's being asked of us is just our opinion about these two recommendations. And recommendation 1, would we prefer option 1 or prefer option 2? If we were to express our opinion, then staff would go back and prepare rules or ordinances to that effect, and that would have to be brought back for public hearing and subsequent action. Am I understanding this correctly?
You understand it crystal clearly.
So may I?
Yes.
So that all we're doing now is expressing our opinion about how to direct staff, and we don't want them to waste their time in doing something we don't desire, but if we desire it, they're happy to go to work for it. Is that correct?
Correct, that's correct.
So I support this motion because I think staff did a great job. There's a lot of detail here. We compare well to other communities, and I think I'm concerned about the differential impact of fees on residential development and not commercial development. I think it should be fair and square, and I think my understanding is that there's a number of things that may impact commercial development or dissuade businesses from developing here, but I'm not sure impact fees is the greatest issue. There's other issues that developers in front of, both the cost of supplies and money, cost of money, and the process they have to go through to get things approved. So I would recommend that we give staff the green light to develop these options, come back, and then we can have a full hearing on the matter with the public hearing.
Councilor Keach?
Thank you, Your Honor. I think this conversation deserves a lot more attention. It's complicated. I have two takeaways. One, I think when we go through the reassessment, I think people are going to be shocked to see the burden that goes to residential and how commercial is going to be paying a lot less of, you know, what goes forward. And I think that's going to surprise a lot of homeowners. So let's prepare for that. Secondly, I understand Councilor Foot's position, but there's a lot of incentives that we have in place now. 79E TIF districts, do we get rid of those as well? So I think it deserves a broad discussion, and I don't have an opinion right now, but I think we need to talk more about it, a lot more about it.
Councilor Todd.
Thank you, Your Honor. I also want to thank Councilor Foote for his interest in this subject and you know, opening discussion on this. I kind of agree with Councilor Keach where he says we need more thought and discussion on this. I think that was where the you know, the planning board, because I was there at that meeting and participated, I think that the thinking generally was with regards to recommendation 2 to have something in lines with what Councilor Keach was suggesting. In other words, if it's not a consultant, then some kind of mechanism by which we could further the discussion on these impact fees and kind of get a sense of where would Concord fall if we were to do either, you know, option 1 or 2 in recommendation 1. So it's, you know, it's possible that what we could do would be to, and in speaking with Councilor Foote about this, I believe he had the suggestion that another way we could think about going about this would be to perhaps create an ad hoc committee that would be able to be assembled to kind of review these items and discuss this, and then maybe come to some kind of conclusions, gather some data, and then kind of go from there in terms of what specific recommendations could be made, rather than having, you know, city staff spend a lot of time initially just kind of preparing something, and then we're still not really sure what we want to do. Because I'm getting the feeling just generally from the table here tonight that there's still some uncertainty, and I guess I'd be in that category as well, without knowing maybe a little bit more about the specifics of other communities and what challenges they face. We've talked a lot about, you know, overall challenges, but it would be good to have a discussion about that, I think.
Thank you. Councilor Brown, did you have your hand up?
I did, but I have already spoken. I'll wait until after Councilor Schultz.
Kind of you. It's me.
Councilor Schultz.
I just wanted to say that until Councilor Foote raised it early in our term together, I had never considered impact fees. I mean, I think it opens a whole interesting set of possibilities. I will add my 2 cents to say we could also look for opportunities where the burdens of government are put upon the backs of those who can most afford it, the wealthy, more so than those that can't, the majority of us. But I think this is something, I also want to second the notion that we don't need to hire consultants for this, or not consultants.
Yeah, consultants.
Is that what you said? Okay. I think that, you know, we rely on the consultants too heavily, in my opinion, and I think that we can continue this conversation without them. And so I'm really interested to see where this goes, and I applaud all of the efforts in this direction.
Thank you. Councilor Brown.
Yes, so my question is for Mr. Walsh and for Councilor Todd. Mr. Walsh, when, and Mr. Thompson, when would you want an answer from council on this? And then my question to Mr. Todd would be, you know, when could we do an ad hoc committee to get us to the point when they would prefer an answer?
The staff is here to work whenever the council wants us to do something.
At the
So
pleasure.
I'm not trying to be flippant at all. I'm just, whenever a decision, a policy decision is arrived at, the staff would be here to work on it. If the council would like some guidance on helping with, look at policy decisions, we're here to help you with that as well. So.
Your Honor, answer.
Councilor Todd.
Thank you. To answer your question, that's at the discretion of the mayor, is my understanding, in terms of the formation of ad hoc committees.
Correct.
So it would be up to him in terms of whether or not that would be a proper route to go.
Councilor Horn.
I agree with Councilor Foote and Councilor Todd that I think that we do not need to hire a consultant, but it would be nice to have a local ad hoc committee to be able to talk this stuff over and figure stuff out.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
So just so we're clear, so it'll be up to the mayor to decide whether or not to follow through with recommendation number 2 and use an ad hoc committee to do such. But for right now, do you want us to walk away and do anything with either option 1 or option 2? Do you want us to do an update on the existing fees for 1 year as the planning board's recommending, or option 2, which is a very large increase, or do you want us to just hold off a little bit until the ad hoc committee meets, talks about it, and comes, because that's something you have to prepare an ordinance for, have public hearings for.
Let's hold off and wait for the
Okay.
recommendation of an ad hoc committee, should I choose to create.
Okay. So we'll be ready when we're asked.
Thank you.
Your Honor?
Yes, Counselor.
May I ask that you would create an ad hoc committee before the master plan kicks off?
Counselor, I'll determine that. Thank you
Well,
for
I
your
was just,
comment.
I asked.
I know. Thank you for your comment. All right, the motion, Counselor Schlosser.
So, Mr. City Manager, did I hear you correct that the planning board is recommending option 1 of recommendation number 1? Did they make a recommendation regarding?
They're just giving you options.
They didn't prefer one.
I don't believe, no.
I see, okay.
No,
I was sitting in the back of the room as well. They just threw it to us.
Thank you.
yeah, and they've made recommendations to do 1-year updates in the past, and the council's looked at that and said, not this year.
I see.
And that was, so that, it's one of those things.
Thank you.
All right, are we ready for the question? The question is to accept the report. Correct. The motion was to accept the report.
It's your motion.
So, as the motion maker, I think it's ambiguous because there's 2 options. And so
Right.
if we accept the report, we're not making a decision on whether we, on what we think about the recommendation. We can accept the report, but the recommendations need to be acted on, I
Right.
believe.
My intention would be to follow Counselor Todd's suggestion, create an ad hoc committee to come back to us with a suggestion, a recommendation on which of those would be the best way to go.
We can't, nothing's going to happen until you actually have changed the ordinance, have a public hearing, change the ordinance, so nothing can,
Okay.
nobody can run off and do
The whole-
anything. So-
If I may, the whole business will be considered by a potential ad hoc committee.
Correct.
All of it, the whole, thank you.
Correct.
Thank you.
Counselor Key.
Just a point of order, I think we could accept the report and do nothing,
I see, I
Right.
see.
I believe.
Thank you.
Right, we can accept the report and do nothing.
Clarification?
Counselor?
Is, by accepting the report, are we going forward with because the staff recommended the 1-year increase?
No. Staff did not recommend anything. The staff presented us with the planning board's recommendation.
Oh, planning board's right. Okay, so
Correct.
planning board is recommending the 1-year increase.
They're recommending, they're suggesting these options to us.
Okay.
So I will create an ad hoc committee, take a look at it, come back to the council with a recommendation. Okay? Are we ready for the question?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
Ayes have it. That brings us to unfinished business. The chair recognizes Councilor Fennessy to make a motion.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to remove item number 31 from unfinished business.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of removing item 31 from unfinished business, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
Okay. The ayes have it. The chair recognizes Councilor Fennessy for a further motion.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to take no action and not approve the resolution as outlined in item number 31.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Sure. As I think everybody knows, we've had under unfinished business since December of 2023, item number 31, which was a resolution appropriating the sum of $10,308,000. I'm bad with my numbers. For the clubhouse design that we had in front of us back in December of 2023, based on the action we took on Thursday, I think that this needs no further consideration at this point, and I would recommend we move forward with my motion and take this off our agenda.
I would second that.
Okay.
That was already seconded.
All right, seconded. Did you want to speak to it, Deach?
Negative.
I guess you did, right? Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you. This moves us to comments by the mayor and council. Councilor Todd.
Thank you, Your Honor. I've got just a couple of quick announcements. On Saturday, July 5th, from 10 to 2 p.m., Moral Farm is going to be celebrating their 100th anniversary. So congratulations to the family of Moral Farm. That's quite an accomplishment. And to celebrate that, they are going to have an open farm event. So that's their address is 33 Pennacook Street. That's where the Moral Farm is. And so they're going to be opening their yard and barns for the public, so everyone can kind of come out and enjoy a little bit of time on the farm. So recommend that. That sounds like a fun day. And then I just 2 library events on Wednesday, June 11 at 9:30. There's going to be story time in the park at Rolfe Park on Community Drive. This is recommended for ages 0 to 5, and it assists with reading and pre-reading skills. And you can register at concordpubliclibrary.net/library/library calendar. And then also, Mini Masters is an art workshop recommended for grade school kids, and it's being held at the Pennacook Library and Activity Center, which is 76 Community Drive, on Friday, June 13th from 4:30 to 5:30. There, children learn about famous artists, and then they get a chance to create their own masterpieces based on studying those famous artists and their works. So again, a registration is required, and again, that's at concordpubliclibrary.net/library calendar. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Farr.
Very exciting news. The Merrimack Valley High School girls lacrosse team is moving into the championship for the first time in their history.
Nice.
They will be playing in Bedford against Winnicott at 7 p.m. tomorrow, and I hope folks will come on and cheer them on for this momentous game.
Awesome. Oh, based on the time, I'll wait.
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
I would like to retroactively recuse myself from police items and police benefits. And I also...
Is that in the budget? In the budget?
In the budget, yes. And also, I would like to say that I'm going to have a community meeting. Anyone who would like to come out and join me, talk about anything, I will be at the Beaver Meadow Clubhouse on the 11th, Wednesday, from 5 to 7. To see you there.
I'm set, thank you.
Councilor Schlosser.
So there will be a Ward 7 resident meeting next Tuesday at the West Street Ward House from 7 to 8:30, and everybody's welcome to come.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilor Foot.
Happy Independence Day, everyone.
I'd like to wish everyone a happy Independence Day and also acknowledge that it's Pride Month,
Oh, yes, I would, yes.
which is approved by Councilor Schultz.
And everybody, I'm sure.
So felicitations to all those who are celebrating and observing Pride Month and its various activities. Having no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We're adjourned.